Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What are rights? If you're a Muslim, you will often hear atheist and irreligious people claiming that the Sharia violates the rights of a certain group. Is this a valid argument? Do atheists provide a superior concept of human rights as they claim, or is this actually a flawed metric to criticize Islam on? Merriam-Webster defines rights as qualities, such as adherence to duty or obedience to lawful authority, that together constitute the ideal of moral propriety or merit moral approval, and the power or privilege to which one is justly entitled. This definition raises a lot of questions. Who defines what is right and what is not right? Why does the right holder have the right? Is the right an intrinsic part of human nature, or is it invented by the social and cultural environment? Philosophers have generally divided rights into two main categories. One, natural rights, which are universal and inherent in every individual. Number two, legal rights, which are given by the government and legislation of a particular society. When an atheist is asked about what constitutes a natural right, there will often be one of two responses. Either A, democratic decision making, or B, empirical evidences. Let's deal with democratic decision making first. It's really not obvious that the opinions of the majority of people in any given society are true. Just because a large amount of people believe a statement to be natural law, it doesn't mean that it has any bearing on the truth value of the statement. For example, if a large amount of people believe that Pluto doesn't exist, this does not imply that Pluto doesn't exist. It just means that most people have an incorrect opinion, which is not in conformity with reality. Therefore, this option is absurd. This is where the second concept comes to light: empiricism. Empiricism in this context is the usage of sensory faculties to determine what reality consists of. Something can be said to be true and real only if there is observable evidence for it. There are two main problems with using empiricism to determine ethical values. First of all, similar to democratic decision making, empiricism does not tell us what is objectively real. It can merely tell us what we have the ability to discover at any given point in time. In other words, the fact that we haven't yet discovered the existence of Pluto does not mean that it doesn't exist. Rather, it shows that we lack knowledge. After all, we are fallible beings with limited knowledge. This means that if one was to use empirical ethics, one's considered right and wrong will be changing all the time based on what we know. It's not really natural, then, is it? Second of all, there is no real means of determining natural rights through observation. Rights are not a tangible substance, and empiricism alone cannot verify non physical realities such as rights. Most atheists believe in what is called philosophical naturalism. That is, the claim that all of reality only consists of the material realm with no metaphysical realities. To hold onto this view, yet try to press on others that you indeed believe in non tangible and non empirically verifiable concepts such as natural rights, is inconsistent. There must be a way, outside of our limited human knowledge, to know whether or not certain non tangible realities exist. Muslims say that the way we discover the existence of these realities is the Quran, the words of God who created us and all existing moral values, and knows every possible thing. The atheist can ask, well, how do you know that your religion is the correct one? And that is a good question that would require more videos to discuss. It is, however, irrelevant to the fundamental problem of atheists bragging about human rights onto the masses with no real basis for it. Some individuals claim that natural rights do not exist. Rather, rights are based upon contrived principles, such as the harm principle. It's argued that all humans want pleasure, all humans want to reduce pain, and therefore rights are the subjective desires of humanity. This type of moral theory is known as utilitarianism and was invented by the 18th century English philosopher Jeremy Bentham. It should be noted that claiming natural rights do not exist is already an admittance of defeat for the non religious. Someone claiming that the Sharia is indeed a violation of rights, whilst also saying that rights do not even exist outside of subjective desires, is absurd. The most this individual can say is that Sharia violates the desires of people. The Muslim can just turn around and say that his desire is to follow the Sharia, and that will end the whole utilitarian claim. This is because the concept of right becomes bounded to the concept of desire. Furthermore, concepts such as the increase of pleasure and decrease of pain are extremely varied throughout cultures and societies. Even if it's accepted that rights are based upon the desire to acquire pleasure and avoid harm, it does not mean that what allows for this is universally the same. For example, societies throughout history maintained slavery, and the vast majority of people did not feel miserable about the existence of such an institution. This reflected on the literature of the time. On the other hand, if ancient Roman slavery was instituted in a Western country today, there would indeed be a large backlash, and most people would feel subjectively miserable about this institution. This means that subjective pleasure and pain rely on social conditioning. If rights are therefore based upon social conditions of a particular region in a particular time period, to state that one of these regions and time periods, for example, modern Western law, is superior to another, for example, ancient Roman law, is problematic at best. Therefore, when such a person criticizes Sharia, they are not using an objective standard to do so. Without an objective standard, to call something truly good or bad is impossible. I hope that this demonstration gave some insight into the problem of morals and rights in the atheistic worldview and its comparison to Islam. I will see you guys later. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.